The Master's Mysteries. Tales of Magical Mastery. Episode 46. In the previous episode, we were talking about how Liao Fengyi successfully lured away the Huangpi guards surrounding the mountain god temple and began investigating the situation inside the temple. While pondering how to quietly descend without alarming the monsters inside, suddenly they heard footsteps coming up the mountain path in front of the temple gate. Liao Fengyi was afraid of alerting the monsters, so he quickly flipped and hid behind the roof of a building, observing the situation ahead. When he looked, he was surprised to see two men walking towards the temple gate, escorting a young girl who seemed to be around 18 or 19 years old, heading into the mountain god temple. However, it was evident that the two men had lost their sanity and were controlled by the two yellow demons behind them. The young girl also appeared to be under their spell, with a vacant and dazed expression. Liao Fengyi's first instinct was to go down and rescue the girl, as things would become even more complicated once they entered the temple. But if he went down now, the monsters inside the temple would be alerted, and he might end up surrounded. Just as he was struggling with his decision, he noticed that Ahu had already shaken off the pursuit of the Huangpi guards and leaped onto the rooftop. "Go and get these papers. They will come in handy when we set up a big array on the temple pillars," Liao Fengyi said as he handed some paper charms to Ahu. As Ahu took the charms and went down from the roof, Liao Fengyi pulled out another charm, getting ready for something. This array formation was Liao Fengyi's strong suit, but since he joined the Baiqian sect, he had been running for his life and never had the chance to use it again. He felt a strong urge to unleash its power. Aurora stars shine, purple gas clouds gather, gods cast spells, aid me in slaying demons. As Ahu placed the four charms on the pillars of the small temple, Liao Fengyi held up his charm and began chanting an incantation. "Hurry," as per the law. If someone with opened heavenly eyes were here, they would see a faint purple spiritual energy converging onto the charm in Liao Fengyi's hand from all directions. Chen Qi. With a shout, a Tian Gang Foyo array covering the entire mountain god temple was activated. Although the name of this array sounded frightening, it wasn't particularly lethal. Liao Fengyi's purpose was not to kill all the creatures inside the temple, since there were also controlled villagers there. He feared that if the yellow demons panicked, they might harm the villagers. Once the large array was activated, the small temple became filled with scorching spiritual energy, trapping the monsters inside and weakening their demonic aura. However, to Liao Fengyi's surprise, perhaps due to the temple's spiritual foundation, the spiritual energy was so abundant that it was challenging to control the array's power. The effect was unexpectedly too strong. The excessive spiritual energy was trapped in the house and then erupted like an explosion, forcing the two yellow demons and the two men to retreat several steps from the temple's entrance. This outcome coincided with Liao Fengyi's intentions. Seizing the opportunity when the two men and the demons were forced back by the spiritual energy, Liao Fengyi immediately took action. With a swift leap, he landed next to the young girl. What's happening? This is... The yellow demons were momentarily shaken by the spiritual energy, and they temporarily stopped their spellcasting. The two controlled men seemed to regain their consciousness briefly. However, since they were outside the large array, the two monsters quickly approached the men again and enchanted them once more. The infuriated beasts, witnessing a stranger snatch their prey away, growled fiercely and aggressively at Liao Fengyi. The two controlled men, as if receiving orders, had their eyes emit a faint green light, and they aggressively lunged at Liao Fengyi. Liao Fengyi stepped in front of the girl, confronting the two men. He understood that these were ordinary villagers controlled by the yellow demons, and he couldn't hurt them severely. After considering his options, Liao Fengyi retrieved two golden darts from his waist. When the two men lunged at him with menacing claws, Liao Fengyi flicked his wrist, and the golden darts shot out. Liao Fengyi aimed for the men's heavenly spirit acupoints, a crucial point for bewitching and controlling one's mind and intelligence. The men's scalps were immediately cut open, and blood started oozing out. They abruptly halted their attack and trembled oddly. Their bodies softened, and they collapsed to the ground. At the same time, the yellow demons, who had been hiding behind the men, were also writhing in pain. Severing their intelligence forcefully had caused serious injuries to the two demons, and they soon fell to the ground as well. Who dares to use such an array? After rescuing the girl and defeating the yellow demons in front of her, just when Liao Fengyi's heart finally relaxed, he heard a furious roar from behind. Liao Fengyi worried that something might attack from behind, so he quickly turned around and shielded the girl in front of him. The action might have appeared somewhat intimate, but given the circumstances, there was no time to think about such things. Liao Fengyi's attention was fully drawn to the several figures emerging from the temple. Who gave you the audacity to use this demon-slaying array in Liaodong? By breaking through the array so quickly, Liao Fengyi had to acknowledge the strength of the monsters within the temple. I'll make you regret it. As the mist dissipated, Liao Fengyi saw a disfigured, mage-like figure coming out of the temple. Remembering what happened earlier, he realized that this must be the mage who was killed and controlled by the old yellow demon, daring to break the rules. The angry voice made Liao Fengyi suddenly recall his master's words. In Liaodong's sacred land of immortals, practitioners were all animals like tigers, yellow weasels, white weasels, and lying weasels. Then I'll have no qualms about killing you. Some array formations involving the suppression and harm of animal practitioners were strictly prohibited. By indulging in his whims and breaking the rules, Liao Fengyi had indeed given this person a valid reason to be upset. Monstrous fiend. Killing so many people, aren't you afraid of retribution? However, since this monstrous fiend had already resorted to killing, abandoning the righteous path, what rules could one expect him to follow? Descending into wickedness, yet expecting others to uphold rules with you. Liao Fengyi couldn't help but feel contemptuous towards this evil being. You're from Manhwa, aren't you? How dare you act so recklessly in Liaodong? Let me teach you a lesson, you arrogant youngster. At this point, engaging in verbal sparring had lost its meaning, especially since the old yellow demon had already decided to attack. Kill him. With a loud roar, the old demon commanded the controlled men to attack. The villagers, under the demon's control, howled and lunged at Liao Fengyi. Liao Fengyi was getting anxious, not because he was afraid. He could handle them alone, and if needed, he could run. But now he had to protect the unconscious girl, and he couldn't fight with full force since he was facing ordinary villagers under the demon's control. He had no choice but to use one arm to hold the girl close to his armpit. It was an awkward action, but under the current circumstances, it was unavoidable. Luckily, the girl was not conscious, sparing him from more embarrassment. Without time for further consideration, the men were already upon him. So Liao Fengyi had no option but to throw a punch. However, these men were controlled by the yellow demon and felt no pain. They would get back up immediately after being knocked down and continue their attacks. Liao Fengyi couldn't hit them too hard due to the girl in his arm, and he found himself struggling to manage the situation. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and persist, without any other viable options at the moment. But even in such a predicament, Liao Fengyi couldn't think of a better way to handle it. The cunning old yellow demon controlled the villagers with increasing expertise, making their attacks more cunning and difficult to defend against. To avoid harming the innocent, Liao Fengyi had to be extremely cautious and controlled in his responses. Squeak! The old yellow demon, seeing that he couldn't hurt Liao Fengyi, let out a few squeaks, indicating his irritation. As soon as the sound faded, Liao Fengyi felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. Turning his head, he saw that a yellow demon had attacked him from behind. Juggling multiple threats simultaneously, Liao Fengyi had left an opening, and the cunning yellow demon took advantage of it, tearing a piece of flesh from his shoulder with one bite. Shaking off the yellow demon, Liu Fengyi assessed the situation before him. It was grim. Not only did he have to deal with the controlled men, but there were also hundreds of yellow demons now on the battlefield. Slowly, they formed a large net, trapping him in the middle.